Hello and welcome back to the First Look series. Today we're going to be taking a first look at an upcoming premium Italian medium tank, tier 9, the Felice. Yeah, this tank's interesting, and do stick around because this tank is looking pretty fascinating and pretty out of the ordinary for Italian mediums. So, what's this tank's DPM? Well, it's 2.2k, and as you're looking here, there's something that may be missing that we do normally, traditionally see on Italian medium tanks, which is the auto-reloader. This tank is a cyclical Italian medium tank, which is something completely new at higher tiers. We don't have that in the game. You know, the Progettos, that kind of line, and the tier 8 premium Progetto, they all have the cyclical, the clip auto-reloading gun. This is a cyclical tank, so it can run a gun rammer. So, for example, when we run a Bond gun rammer, you can get this tank's DPM up to 2,600, which is pretty nice. It's not blowing the socks off, but it kind of sits on the good end of average for tier 9 medium tanks. And it has, dispersion, 0.4. This tank is going to be pretty poor at sniping. This is going to be a let's get up close and personal kind of medium tank. But it does have 490 alpha damage, which is very nice. 490 is really, really nice for a medium tank. That's almost more heavy tank-esque alpha. And it does have, therefore, heavy tank-esque dispersion, I guess. And this tank's aim time is also pretty poor. 2.59 is definitely bad for a medium tank. This tank's gun handling is looking pretty poor, but its DPM is pretty okay, and its alpha is pretty good. Its penetration values are, once again, pretty good. You know, it kind of has a heavy tank gun, so it has heavy tank penetration. 268mm APCR standard, nice. That's actually really good for a tier 9 medium. And then it has heat gold penetration. Heat is its gold ammo with 325mm of penetration, which is very nice. 325 for a tier 9 medium is really comfy. That's kind of the penetrations we expect to see at tier 10. So it's looking like a tier 9 medium tank with a tier 10 heavy tank gun so far, basically. Its top speed is also representing a heavy tank. Are we sure they've not mislabeled this? This tank statistics are very heavy tank-esque for a medium tank. 35 forward, 15 back is slow. That is really slow for a medium tank. You are going to be slower than heavies, pretty significantly, than tier 9 heavies, which is, not great. It has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty nice. That's pretty standard for Italian tanks in general. What's its armor looking like then? So everything else is looking heavy tank-like. What's its armor? Well, 120 millimeters of hull armor is not particularly heavy tank-like. There's medium tanks with more hull armor. Turret armor, 290. Okay, that's a bit better. We'll have a look at this tank's armor model in a second and see what that actually means effective. HP pool, 1600. Yeah, that's medium tank-esque. That's not very heavy tank-esque. Even when you're running a bond hardening on this tank and you have all the field mods, you're only really getting up to mid-1800s, which is not great. This tank is so far looking like a heavy tank mislabeled as a medium tank, but with medium tank HP and medium tank kind of armor. So, what does this armor model look like? Well, visually, this tank is looking interesting. It looks kind of like the Lion, the tier 10. Jesus, I can't speak today. The tier 10 Italian medium tank, which was part of the assembly shop. It looks very like that in terms of its turret and its hull. Very similar, very reminiscent. But live armor. Okay, that's a bit better. So it has a heavy tank-esque turret. That 290 millimeters effective is actually looking a little bit more like 300-ish. It's finished, more to like 360, 370, 380. A little bit more wider out. It does have a cupola, which is pretty easy to pen, 200 millimeters, but that is potentially going to be hideable because it's quite far back on the turret when it uses its gun depression. This tank's hull is terrible, as we saw. Pretty pennable by pretty much anything this tank is going to face. Remember, it's a tier 9 tank, so it can face tier 7s. Tier 7s ain't going to be penning this. Its cupola for Tier 7s is going to be semi-reliable. You know, it's not going to be a semi-reliable pen. You will bounce. But its turret is going to be very easy. Sorry, its hull is going to be a very easy pen for Tier 7s. Tier 8s, once again, as well. When we start to fire gold, yeah, that's where we see this tank kind of fall apart a little bit in terms of its turret armor. It's kind of got, like, multiple layers, I guess. So its gun mantler adds a bit of armor. Yeah, this tank is going to be pretty weak in terms of its turret when you fire gold against it, especially if we're talking tier 9, tier 10 gold here, not tier 8, tier 7 gold. They will still bounce because it is still 315, 320 kind of millimeters, but that is a massive target to shoot at with good heat penetration. So yeah, and its whole hull becomes pennable. So how does this tank look when it uses its gun depression? Well, it gets a bit better. Its cupola, as I said, does become a lot harder to see. That's interesting. And you do then start having to require about 340 millimeters of heat penetration to be able to pen this tank, which not many tanks at tier 10, medium tanks wise, do have, neither heavy tanks. So it does get better. It does have a shot catcher underneath the gun, which is going to be a weak point, and it does look like if you are going to fire APCR, you will potentially maybe ricochet and pen its very weak kind of underside gun area, which is going to be potentially interesting. If anybody knows the Iron Arnie, the tier 8 American medium tank, yeah, that has a similar issue. Yeah, this tank is going to be one that requires a ridgeline, basically, to be able to play on flat ground against tier 8s, tier 7s, tier 9s firing standard. Its turret will hold up, its hull won't. But if you can get this tank into a hull down situation where it can use its 8 degrees of gun depression, hide its cupola, hide its hull, only expose its turret and gun, yeah, this tank will begin to work, and it will be pretty terrifying on a ridgeline, to be fair, because, you know, having to require 340 millimeters of penetration for a medium tank, a tier 9 medium tank at that, yeah, this tank is going to be pretty good when it gets on a ridgeline with not particularly many weak points. It does have this bar, but that's not particularly the largest weak point, and it's going to be pretty hard to hit. So, how is this tank looking? Well, it's looking interesting, as I said. It's something new. We've never really seen this for an Italian medium tank. We've never really seen this cyclical style of gun. It's always really been auto-reloading with a clip. So, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, this tank is looking kind of on the slightly better end of average, if that makes sense. It's not going to be broken, for sure, but it's also not going to be terrible. It's kind of sitting smack bang middle of average, slightly towards the better side. This is a very similar tank to kind of those tanks we expect to see in loot boxes. It reminds me of a tank that we could see in the Christmas loot boxes this year. It has a little bit of an interesting gimmick in the fact that it's an Italian medium tank without the kind of Italian medium tank gimmick. So that becomes a gimmick in itself, which is quite funny. It's not going to be broken. It's going to be kind of good end of average, which is kind of what we expect to see nowadays from the Christmas loot boxes. And we have started to see, especially last year, more tier 9 premium more tier 9 premium tanks, not just mediums, in those loot boxes. So I feel like this would be one of those kind of tanks. It fits in being those kind of like a bit funky, kind of heavy tank-esque, but under a medium tank label. So do let me know what you think about this tank down in the comments. Do let me know if you're excited to see it. When do you think we'll see it? And I do respond to every comment, so do have a conversation down there. If you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!